Welcome to our mentor resource webinar, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Gloria Coe, and I serve as the Senior Director for Alumni Career Engagement. And we're, again, so excited that you're here to find out more about the career development resources available for graduate students at UCLA. For some general housekeeping, we will have time at the end of our webinar for a Q&A with our campus expert, Erin Brown. So please use the Q&A function below to add your questions throughout the session, and we'll be sure to ask your questions. But please don't use the chat, as we will want to leave all our questions in the Q&A. And so also we will be recording the session, so it is available later. So just to let you know in case you need to duck out early. So now to introduce our campus expert. Erin Brown is the Interim Assistant Director for UCLA's Graduate Career Services, providing career exploration and professional development programming, as well as individual career coaching to UCLA graduate students and postdoctoral scholars. Having completed her Ph.D. in history at UCLA, she has a deep connection to UCLA's graduate communities and is committed to helping graduate students successfully pursue their career goals. Erin brings a wealth of industry experience to this position, having worked at 2 multinational corporations, including Toyota, as well as having founded and operated a preservation consulting firm in Northern California. We're thrilled to have her here to share her knowledge and her expertise to our mentors. And for those of you that are mentoring a graduate student, we know that they have unique needs and career development questions. And so we're excited to have her here today to talk about what it is to keep in mind as you're mentoring your student this year. So I'll welcome Erin up, and we'll get started with the presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm really excited to be talking to all of you who have agreed to volunteer your time to mentor our graduate students here at UCLA. Give me just a moment to share my screen with you. Oh, I actually need permission to share my screen. Gloria. Let's try that again. Okay. So tonight I'm going to talk with you about some of the resources that we have available from Graduate Career Services, and bear with me as I get the slideshow up and going. And I'm going to talk about some ways that you can really make impact with your graduate student mentees. So as Gloria said, I am the Interim Assistant Director at UCLA's Graduate Career Services, which is housed within UCLA's Career Center. I have been in this role for the past 4 years, and I work primarily with PhD students, although I offer services for master's students, PhDs, and postdocs. I do want to mention to those of you that are working with master's students, we do have a number of centers across campus where they may also be able to get graduate career services. So if they are at Anderson and they are a master's student, they do have a graduate team there to work with them. If they are master's students and they're at Luskin, the School of Public Policy, the School of Public Affairs, they also have a team there to work with master's students. And then last but not least, our School of Public Health has a team that works not only with master's students, but with PhDs and postdocs as well. So you may have, if you are working with a mentee that is in any of those fields, you may find that there are additional resources in apart from the ones that I'm going to share with you tonight. So let's get started. Here is what we're hoping to do. We're hoping to make an impact with your mentees in 2021. And as you know, this is a particularly challenging year. So I wanted to think about 3 things that you should probably know when you are working with graduate students right now. The first is that COVID is a major concern with our students. And, you know, to be fair, they have every reason to be concerned about COVID and the job market. The way this is playing out right now on campus is something like this. There are a lot of graduate students who are saying there are no jobs. I'm making a plan to stay another year, even if I wind up with more student loans. This is scary, and it's sad, and it's defeatist. This is particularly true of our PhDs, who can often find some way to fund another year at graduate school. But let's be clear, it's rarely a good idea to spend another year in graduate school, especially if you are going to rack up some more in student loans. So we really want to try to encourage our graduate students to find opportunities so that they don't spend another year in graduate school. To be clear, a lot of our master's and PhD students are disillusioned, scared, frustrated, and they're grappling with three major issues. One is that they believe there are no jobs available. And in some industries, as you know, that's true. And there's a lot of negative economic data that's coming out, right? We just found out that, jobless claims have dipped another 2.8%, right? So and this is from December. So our graduate students are hearing this and they're feeling like, why should they go on the job market? A number of them are particularly concerned that they're going to graduate without the skills they need to be competitive candidates, given the fact that there's a lack of lab opportunity right now, that the online course structure is limiting, and that there were a lack of internships last summer. And our international students are really struggling because of federal policies that have basically knocked them out of the job market. So here's what I'm hoping that you can all do with your mentees. Let's try and reframe some of those concerns. Let's try and not play with generalizations and really help them find their competitive advantage. So help your mentee make a plan for the new COVID economy. And what that really means is help them think about what industries and job titles where people are getting hired. We have a number of graduate students that will tell you, oh, well, Google's not hiring right now and Facebook isn't hiring right now, so I can't get a job. The fact of the matter is, if they're UX researchers or if they're data scientists, there are companies that are hiring for UX researchers and data scientists right now. And quite honestly, if you want a really, really cool database to work with as a data scientist or as a UX researcher, one of the biggest databases out there is Walmart's, and Walmart is definitely hiring. So help them start thinking about different spaces where they could do the work that may not be Google or Facebook. Also, please share your connections to help them get their foot in the door. As you know, people get jobs because of who they know. And right now, the latest jobs report from the US Labor Department says that 75% of people will tell you that they got their job because of somebody they knew. That number is only expected to go up now that we are in the kind of hiring economy that we're currently in. Strategize with your mentee so that they're developing the skills that they need to be competitive in their chosen careers. And when I say this, what I'm really saying to you is spend some time talking with them about the career path they want to follow and what skills they think they need. Understand that right now on our campus, because we do not have in-person classes, we have also limited the number of lab opportunities. So currently, first-year PhD students and most master students are not allowed to work in labs on campus. Any of you who had the experience of working in labs as a master's student, as a PhD student, even as an undergrad, understand how much value there is in getting that lab experience. Right now, that has been really constricted. Know too that the online class format which every graduate student is in right now, is affecting the way that they're doing projects. So class projects are not nearly as engaged as they were possibly when you were here on campus. And graduate students are very concerned that they're not getting that kind of experiential training. If you can, with your graduate student, help them think about other ways to develop the skills, or help them think about ways that they can get around those skills, whether it's looking at a different kind of job, or whether it's explaining those skills in different ways, because these are things that are really frustrating to them. Last but not least, understand that our international students have been severely impacted. Because we are not offering classes on campus right now, especially our master's students are struggling. If they are in a one-year program, they are effectively doing an online program for the entire year. They are not allowed to come into this country if they are international students, if all of their learning is going to be online. So that means we've got students in China that are taking the Masters of Applied Economics entirely online. And they're taking it in the middle of the night because that's when the classes are being offered. And more than that, because they are not here in country, they are not eligible for the CPT or OPT that our international students normally get. So this is a particular challenge. I don't expect you to be experts on international policy as it relates to international students. So really and truly refer them to our DashU Center. I've provided the link here. And one great activity that you might do with an international student who is your mentee is to take them to the international student website, to the DashU Center website, and actually work with them at walking through what is a very complex website, but hopefully helping them make sense of who they need to talk to and where they can get resources there. The second thing that I would ask you to do is, if you are working with a PhD, help your PhD pivot. For those of you that have PhDs, you're probably already aware of this, but I'm going to share a couple of really scary statistics. PhDs are being forced, this is not a statistic, get there in a minute. PhDs are being forced to pivot, and they are very, very scared to do it because there are no jobs right now in academia. So we have a group of people who, many of whom spent their entire lives being prepared to become professors, only to find that if they graduate this year, if they graduate next year, more than likely, there are not jobs available for them. In fact, this year, academic disciplines are reporting a 66 to 80% reduction in the number of academic job postings as compared to just a year ago. That means that if you are working with a PhD in Spanish or Portuguese, last year there were 10 job postings across the country, tenure track, looking for an assistant professor in either Spanish or Portuguese. This year, there are 2 job postings anywhere in the country to get a job as an assistant professor. Now, notice that I said there were only 10 jobs last year. The fact of the matter is that academic jobs have been dropping every year for the last 20 years. The academic job market is a dismal place to be trying to find a job. There is not an expectation that the academic job market is going to rebound very much after COVID. In fact, currently, 70% of faculty positions across the country are contingent. That means these are people that are not tenure tracked, that are not tenured, that do not stand any chance of being tenured. These are people that have worked very hard for a PhD, and they are getting paid, $2,500 a class per semester to teach, and they may or may not even be getting healthcare for it. This is not a place where we want brilliant people to be hanging out, regardless of whether COVID has driven them out of academia or not. Academia is not a great place for most people to be hanging out unless they can tenure track. And here's the sad truth. Before COVID, only about 12.5% of PhDs were finding any kind of academic job. This is before COVID. This is a national number. Yes, UCLA does rank better than the national average. However, it's not that much better. And this is true across discipline. So don't assume if you're working with a PhD in computer science that they will for sure get hired with a tenure track job. Because again, the hiring is very, very limited for tenure track positions. So PhDs need to pivot. And to their credit, they're recognizing this in increasing numbers. They're smart, but they're struggling. So these are the career barriers that you can expect to see when you're working with your PhDs. PhDs lack confidence. In fact, if you have ever worked with an undergraduate as a mentee, you may be surprised when you work with a PhD about how unconfident your PhD is. They may be brilliant, but they may believe that they have no skills at all. As I said, they may believe that they're unskilled. They may be totally overwhelmed by looking at a job outside of academia. They may have no idea what's possible outside of academia. They may have no idea where to start. They may believe that they are underqualified or overqualified for positions. A lot of our PhDs are going to be looking for jobs that are not only outside of academia, but aren't being advertised for PhDs. That's because PhDs make up less than 1% of the American population. Most people don't even realize that a PhD would be a good person to put into a position. When you add to that PhDs generally start looking for non-academic jobs relatively late, because in addition to working on their doctoral research, they are also working in labs, they are TAing, they are working in GSR positions in support of other professors on campus. They have really limited work experience off campus. And more than that, they're not spending a lot of time looking at thinking about careers while they're on campus. Okay, but we know PhDs are brilliant. We know PhDs are talented, and you can absolutely help them develop the confidence, think about their skills more broadly, and move them successfully into non-academic careers. One way that we do this is by helping our graduate students understand that intentional career planning is important and that it's been proven successful. So a couple of things you might want to share with your graduate students. First of all, and I think this is particularly interesting, a nationwide study of 7,600 postdocs who had developed training plans with their advisors found that they received greater satisfaction from their postdoctoral appointments. They published more papers during their postdocs, and they experienced fewer conflicts with those advisors. If you tell any of your PhDs this, they're going to be thrilled to hear this. And quite honestly, if you tell most of your master's students, they're going to understand that this applies to them as well. More than that, a study that's about 10 years old now has demonstrated that people who develop and implement strategies to pursue career-specific goals achieve greater career success. And let me be clear, when we're talking about greater career success, we're defining this in a number of different ways. Certainly salary is one way we can talk about career success, but promotions and level of responsibility are also ways to talk about career success. If you use any of those three measurements, people who engage in in career planning are more likely to succeed, okay? And more than that, greater career satisfaction is, I'm sorry here, I just lost my train of thought. Greater career satisfaction not only makes them more successful than their peers, greater career satisfaction leads to success outside of whatever they do. So if you think about it, people who enjoy and feel fulfilled by the work that they do are more likely to report being happy outside of their work life. And that's something that we should all be looking towards, right? So these are some things that you want to share with your graduate students. Now, I don't expect you to be an expert on career planning. We have a couple of great tools that I'm going to share with you that you can help, that you can actually work with and introduce your graduate students to. So both of these are free. My IDP is designed for PhDs in STEM, technically life science PhDs. However, I've found that my IDP works well with people from all sorts of STEM backgrounds. It was developed by Science Magazine and the AAAS, which is a federal fellowship for PhDs. But it was also heavily designed by the people at UC San Francisco. Again, so it's got that life science bent to it, but it really focuses on people throughout STEM, throughout physical, life, and engineering. Physical sciences, life sciences, and engineering. I'm sorry, I got tongue-tied there. As I said, these are free and confidential. You can log in. You don't have to be in graduate school to check these out. So if you're going to share this with one of your graduate students, you might want to log in yourself and see what it all looks like. On the other side of campus, our North Campus majors, our humanists and social scientists, we have Imagine PhD. Imagine PhD is newer than my IDP. I think it's more user-friendly. So if you are working with somebody in STEM, don't be afraid to go and look at Imagine PhD. You may find that there's a lot in there for your STEM people as well. But Imagine PhD, again, free and confidential, was designed for PhDs in the humanities and social sciences. Interestingly, since it's been launched, we have found that even high school students are logging into Imagine PhD. So everyone can appreciate what Imagine PhD has to offer. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to talk with you about, and this is the career planning tool for for Imagine PhD. Both of these tools have short assessments. I would encourage anybody that you are mentoring to do an assessment either on Imagine PhD or My IDP. The assessments are very similar, and they're going to take you through what are your interests, what are your skills, and what are your values. Have them go through those. It'll take them like 5 to 10 minutes to do each one of the assessments. But it can be really valuable for you as you are talking with them to kind of think through what the implications are for them if they are talking about their interests, their skills, and their values. But the second reason that I would encourage you to work with your graduate students using these tools is because of the My Plan tool. So I'm showing you the planning tool here for Imagine PhD, but My IDP also has a planning tool. And what I think is great about it is they can build on their plan. They can lay out, as you can see here, it starts with prospectus submitted, but they can actually lay out working backwards. They can say, I want to graduate in June 2023 or June 2021, as the case may be. And then they can work backwards, identifying milestones and actually building a chart that will go, by the way, to a weekly or monthly spreadsheet for them so that they can actually identify for any given month things that they should be working on. This could be fantastic for you to help them with, because you can actually sit down and talk with them about the fact that if they want to graduate in June and they want a job in July, then they should really get their resume ready to go by this date. And then you can have a conversation with them about whether you would be the right person to review their resume, or whether you would encourage them to schedule an appointment at, say, Graduate Career Services to develop their resume, or alternatively, to use the tools that I'm going to share with you on how to build a resume. So, career planning, very important. I really hope you spend some time using, you don't have to use these tools, but I think these tools can be very valuable in talking with your graduate students. Oh, one thing that I did want to show you that I think I love about Imagine PhD is that Imagine PhD recognizes that you have degree completion goals. You also have career development goals, skill development goals, personal development goals, and money and funding goals. And this can be a really valuable thing to be talking with your graduate students about. And if you are somebody who doesn't actually know what degree completion looks like for, say, a PhD, we have all of these suggested goals that they could set that you can talk them through. So just another thing to think about when you're thinking about maybe helping them build an individual development plan. Okay, so let's talk about what we have available for you. Here at UCLA's Graduate Career Services, we have a variety of resources and programs to help graduate students become career ready when they graduate. And this is something that you can absolutely point your graduate students to. We're happy to help them in any way that we can. So what do we offer? Well, first of all, we offer one-on-one advising. So if you have a master student, we offer 30-minute appointments for master students. And I can tell you that we have a ton of availability. So a master student shouldn't have any problem signing up for a one-on-one appointment. I wish more of them would take advantage of it. On the PhD side, I am currently the only person that meets with PhD students. And because I am running Graduate Career Services right now, as you might imagine, I do not offer a ton of appointments. And when I do offer appointments, they fill up really quickly. But here is a trick for you with your PhD students to help them get an appointment with me if you want them to get an appointment with me. Every Friday, I add more appointments and I add them 2 weeks out, okay? So my appointments for next week are totally full, but tomorrow I will be adding new appointments for the week of February 15th. So if you want your graduate students, your PhD students to meet with me, tell them that they need to log on to Handshake on Friday afternoon or Saturday, and they will find appointments available. They just need to grab one. I can tell you, usually my appointments fill up by Monday morning. Okay, so what do we cover during these appointments? Oh, and in the off chance that you are working with a postdoc, unfortunately, we currently do not offer one-on-one appointments for postdocs. The reason is because we are funded through student fees and postdocs are not students. That said, we can go through resumes with them. We can teach them how to write cover letters. We will go through CV critiques if they are on the academic job market. We do career exploration and we help with job search. We also do mock interviews and we will even help them negotiate an offer. That's like my favorite part of my job, is helping them negotiate offers. I'm not gonna lie, it's really cool. We do a lot of workshops. So we have skills workshops. We try to be fairly timely in what we offer as skills workshops. So for example, this fall, we did a workshop on online interviewing. We did another workshop on job search during a pandemic. I'm going to show you what we're offering this winter in just a moment. We do a number of events. Right now, all of these events are virtual, which is great because you can live halfway around the world and you can be a part of our events. We do employer info sessions specific for master students and PhD students. We offer case competitions. We do networking events with alumni like you and recruiters. We do employer panels. We do career fairs. Over the fall, we did a really fun one called the Recruiter's Perspective. We brought in recruiters from major organizations. So we brought in a recruiter from Walmart. We brought in a recruiter from the state auditor's office, someone from Exponent, which is technical management consulting. They only hire PhDs. I'm trying to remember who else was a part of that group. And I know there's somebody else I'm missing. Oh, Facebook. Facebook was there. And what the recruiters talked about was what they look at when they look at a candidate coming through applying to their companies. We had about 170 graduate students and postdocs attend that. We do virtual last summer, they were virtual. I expect they will be again this summer. We do boot camps for job seekers. So for people that are actively on the job market, it's a 4-week program. Actually, it's a 5-week program. I think we decided it's going to be 5 weeks this year. And every week they work with us for a couple of hours and they have assignments that they have to do, whether that is building a resume, doing an informational interview, reaching out to their contacts, all of that sort of thing comes through the boot camps. And then last but not least, we do these informal weekly lunch meetings that we call career conversations. And each career conversation has a different theme. So last quarter, we did a theme on career exploration. This quarter, we're doing a weekly conversation on interviewing, behavioral interviewing. And it's a lot of fun. The graduate students, we basically give them a popular behavioral interview question. We unveil a strategy for how you should answer that. And then we send them into breakout rooms with each other, and they do a back and forth asking each other the question and then having to answer it. They get through about 3 questions per hour in that. And that's been really, really popular. We're also doing a weekly career conversation this quarter on my IDP. So every week we're talking with them about how they can use my IDP to find the career that they want and to become a competitive candidate for that career. Next quarter, just so you know, one of our career conversations will be using Imagine PhD. So this is our calendar for winter quarter. And you can see, as I said, these are our career conversations, but you'll also see that we're offering 2 to 3 events per quarter. The big events that we've offered this quarter, one is Failing Forward, which was really interesting. We brought somebody in from CAPS to talk about normalizing failure and about how to adjust or how to reframe your failures as you move forward. And we had then 3 alumni come and talk about how they've failed over the courses of their careers and how they've used those failures to propel them forward. So that was really popular. We just did on Tuesday a workshop on owning your digital brand. We had about 170 graduate students that attended that workshop. We talked about everything from personal websites, academic Twitter, to the very basic but important LinkedIn. We're getting ready to do one on tell us a little bit about yourself, which we're referring to as explaining your PhD experience to the rest of the world. I think more PhDs need to figure out how to talk to people who do not have PhDs. And then the one that we're really excited about in March, which would be a great one for you to send your graduate students to if they're feeling dispirited about finding a job during COVID. It's called How I Got a Job During COVID-19, Success Stories for Graduate Students and Postdocs. And I can tell you that every one of the 5 panelists that we have did indeed find a job or an internship or both during COVID-19. So hopefully that will be pretty inspirational. We have a lot of digital resources. So I mentioned to you Handshake earlier. Handshake is how our graduate students will sign up for one-on-one appointments, but it's also how they sign up for all of our events. Some of you may be familiar with Handshake. We switched over to Handshake, gosh, about 2.5 years now. It's also a great job board. And I would say to you, those of you that knew how to schedule an appointment with the Career Center before we moved to Handshake, one of the things that we really didn't have much success with when we had the platform before Handshake was we didn't have a really robust job board. With Handshake, we have a really robust job board. And you may hear your graduate students say, oh, but there are no jobs on there for graduate students. That's not true. There are jobs on there for graduate students. Even PhDs, even postdocs can find jobs on Handshake. Certainly not as many as you will find for your undergrads, but there are definitely jobs available for PhDs and postdocs on Handshake, and definitely for our master's students. We are getting ready to launch our first resource videos. There will be 7 videos in this series. They're covering everything from resume all the way to negotiation. They run about 15 to 20 minutes per video. And when we launch them, I will let Gloria know so that she can share those links with you. They should be available, by the way, on YouTube, but we haven't set up the channel yet for YouTube. That's something we're working on right now. We are also really proud of our new Career Center website. So I strongly encourage you to spend a little time on the Career Center website, and definitely get your graduate student to spend time on the Career Center website. Here's the key to making your graduate student happy. When they come onto the Career Center website, make sure that they click on the Graduate tab. This can be a little confusing because some of us think of graduate, we think of alumni. But actually on ours, when it says graduate, it means graduate students. So make sure to get them sent to the Graduate Student tab. On there, you will find everything from sample resumes to descriptions on how to conduct a great informational interview. We have any number of resources on there. But we also have links to My IDP, Imagine PhD, things like Interview Stream or Vault, which are outside vendors. We actually pay subscriptions for these programs. Interview Stream is great for them if they need to practice their interviewing skills. Vault is a fantastic way to look for jobs and internships in some of our most popular fields like management consulting. And one of the things that I would mention, I will mention it now, and then I will show you the slide in a minute, is we have recently subscribed to VMOC. And VMOC is a online resume building service. And this is something that absolutely our master students, I think it's better for our master students than our PhDs, but both groups should absolutely be using. Also, our postdocs can use VMOC as well. The last thing I wanted to point out as a digital resource is we have a great LinkedIn group. It's the UCLA Graduate Career Services LinkedIn group. It is open to anyone who has a master's, PhD, or postdoc from UCLA. So those of you that actually have a master's, PhD, or postdoc, we encourage our alumni to become members. It is a fantastic resource. We have so many articles and videos on our LinkedIn as a part of our LinkedIn group. You could probably find an article or a video about any question that your mentee may have. We also do something really cool on there. We do web page takeovers. And what that means is that if we have a group like our success stories, our COVID success stories panel, we invite the panelists to come on and take over the LinkedIn page for a day. And they answer questions and they share resources. And our graduate students have found this to be really, really helpful. We just launched it this summer, and we're already up to almost 800 members. As I promised, this is VMOC. It is our newest tool in our arsenal. As I said, it is free to all UCLA students and to postdocs. I've given you the link here, but it's also really easy to access it just by going onto the Career Center grad page, and they can find it here. Our graduate students can, using this resource, can either build a resume for the first time using VMOC. They have templates and they will take you step by step on how to build a good resume, or they can upload an existing resume and get a critique. Let me be clear, the critique is not as good as I would like it to be for PhDs. The critique is okay for most of our master's students, but if you are working with a master's student in architecture or in art, VMOC has no capability of managing a creative resume. So if you have someone in those fields, don't send them to VMOC. They will just get frustrated. But if you have a master's student or a PhD student who has never built a resume, this is a great place for them to start. And so at this point, I'm going to just share, just so you know, this is my email address. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer emails. I get a lot of emails every day. So don't worry about reaching out to me there, but please do if you want to. And at this point, I'm going to open it up to questions. And I'll stop the share.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Erin. That was so rich with resources and information and also tips, which I think is so great for our mentors who are really trying to add value to their mentees and also find the right ways to motivate them. So thank you so much.
Oh, no problem.
So I actually had one question. Actually, this came from Julia in in our registration. She actually asks, this is a motivational question.
Okay.
That she said that she had a meeting with her mentee and the meetings went really well and they were excited about the resources that were given. And so then when she checked in and wanted to encourage them to set up meetings, they responded that they're busy. How can I encourage them to meet? So it seems like she has a lot of information, they like it, but then maybe they're, that motivation of keeping up. As a mentor, what do you suggest in terms of staying connected to their mentee?
Yeah, so there are two things that I would say. First of all, the onus has to be on the mentee to actually step up and get this done. I have done this so many times where I have shared resources with graduate students. They are enthusiastic, they are ready to go. And then they come back and see me like 6 months later and they have done nothing. So remind them that the only person who can really help them get a job is them. They have to do the work. Know too, though, that graduate students really do struggle. They have, for those of you that have a graduate degree from UCLA, you know that they aren't just handed out. You really have to work hard for them. Our master students right now are finding that the online environment is really difficult to get work done. And a lot of times they are zoomed out at the end of the day. So it can be hard to get them to zoom in, and you may have to settle for some emails with them, quite honestly. Our PhD students, right now, TAing is it's so hard for them because they're doing all of this online, and they're having to build their lesson plans online. So be patient with them. Just being that person who reaches out occasionally and says, hey, I'd love to check in with you. If you have 15, 20 minutes, let me know. We can try and find some time. That may be all that they need to hear to get a little bit of motivation. Hopefully that helps.
That's, that's great feedback. Just to give our mentors a little bit of insight into their current UCLA experience, which probably looks so different than any of ours,
Yes.
our UCLA experience. So thank you for that reminder. And also, I think when it comes to our mentors as well, sometimes I know students, they avoid you because they're not ready. Like they feel like, oh, I didn't do the work that they said I should do. If I don't respond, it's like they think they're invisible, right? And that we won't remember that, we had asked them to do these things. So sometimes it may not even have anything to do with their mentors, but really they're not, they want to be on top of it and they're not ready to check in. And so know that sometimes it's not you, it's really, them. So
no, it's so true, and they're such a bunch of perfectionists that they really do try to hide. If they don't have what they think they should have for you, they will try to hide from you. So again, just dropping in with a little email saying, hey, I just wanted to check in on with you. I know you're super busy right now. Maybe we should schedule a 15-minute conversation. Or, let me know you're still alive by sending me an email. That can actually make them feel better. Note too that, building on what Gloria said, if they're PhD students and they're not hitting their deadlines with their advisors or with their PIs, they're trying to hide from their advisors and their PIs. So this is a learned behavior, right? And so if you are somebody who is kind when you reach out and say, hey, I just wanted to make sure you're okay, you may find that you have somebody who is unbelievably grateful, because I can assure you that most of their advisors, when they reach out to them, are not saying, hey, how you doing? Are you okay? They're saying, you missed your deadline. So you may find that you build some goodwill just by doing that really non-confrontational reach out and ask.
Thank you. I actually do have another question. And if anyone does have a question they want to add to the Q&A, feel free to do so. So my next question is, in your experience as a coach, how do you help a student get unstuck? Especially those that were asking them to pivot, or maybe they know that they have to, but this was something they had wanted to do for a long time, maybe being a professor or something. But again, how have you helped students kind of get unstuck?
Yeah. And this is really hard. It goes back to that point that I was making about perfectionism. So one thing is, most of you are probably not professional counselors or therapists. So if you do really feel that you're working with someone who is struggling with this, in their professional life, in their academic life, in their personal life, encourage them to reach out to someone at CAPS, because we do have a great counseling team that they understand being stuck more than probably any other advisors, because they have to deal with it all the time with graduate students. So that's point number one. But as a coach, what I have found is to identify, a lot of times when they're stuck because in their mind they have rolled out, I need to have a job by July 2021. I can't do it. I'm done. I can't do it. Right. And so one of the things that can help is actually that career planning tool, where you actually, and it can be really helpful if you work with them and walk it backwards. So, okay, you want to have a job by July 2021. You want to graduate then by June 2021. That means that you need to be working on this, this, and this until you get to a point which says, okay, so in the next couple of weeks, you really need to build your resume. Let's talk about, do you think that we could sit down and work on building your resume, right? And ask a lot of questions. I will say to people oftentimes, okay, so let's take a first step and start with that resume. Would you feel comfortable starting on a resume? And then wait and see how they respond. Some of them will go, yeah, I think I could do that. Others will be like, I have no idea how to do a resume. Like they're immediately throwing their hands up. if they do that, take a step back, find something that's smaller about starting to build a resume. Especially with graduate students, say, here, this is a really good article on building a resume. Just read the article and then we'll talk about it. So if you can give them the kind of baby steps, but really concrete things that they can do, you'll start building up their confidence, and then they'll start moving more towards the goal. It's really the baby steps to get them there.
That's a good reminder, especially the baby steps and just the initial steps just to move forward. They don't have to have it figured out right away, but even just little wins really helps move them in the right direction.
Yeah.
I did want to throw out to our mentors, you've all been on UCLA One. If, let's say, they want to get someone's eyes on their resume and you may not feel like you're in the right industry for it, they can actually request a resume critique from someone that's already rose their hand that said, hey, I'm happy to do a resume critique and mock interviews. So if you're saying, hey, we're not in the same industry that, I'm not in the industry that you want to go into, but UCLA One has, the options. I found a couple for you, in case you want to take that added step. Or you can say, you should find a couple to look for and you should make an ask. So again, this whole process, oftentimes the students do have to put themselves out there, and it's just making it a safe place for them to do so, because ultimately the worst thing that can happen is that person would say no. So,
and I do think, Gloria, you're absolutely right. That is about the safest space you can find for any students, right, is to go onto UCLA One, because these people have already volunteered by raising their hand, and they've said what they're willing to help with. And I think that makes it a lot easier for students.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really excited that, again, our mentors here have also you raised your hand and you've offered your time, and we wanted to give you this space too to hear from a career expert, a UCLA expert like Erin, who has seen it all, I'm sure, with your master's and PhD students. So thank you again for sharing your experience with us today and to give us the tools to be able to help our students. And so since we don't have any more questions, I wanted to, again, officially thank Erin for her time today, for sharing her expertise and her knowledge. And for mentors, you are not alone in this process. UCLA does have great resources for our students. Erin, I know, works tirelessly to make resources and opportunities available for our students in the Career Center and the Graduate Career Services. So, thank you, Erin, for all that you do. And mentors, we are here to support you too. We know that being a mentor is not always the easiest thing. You put yourself out there every time you send an email and you check in. So thank you for putting yourselves out there and giving of your time, even during a pandemic. And we totally appreciate you putting yourselves out there and being a support for our students. And so yes, Erin, did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I agree. I really do want to thank all of you for supporting our graduate students. I know you've got a lot going on during this crazy time as well, but your support for graduate students, it fills in a lot of gaps, a lot of very important gaps. So thank you very much for doing this.
So on behalf of UCLA Alumni Affairs and also our career expert here, thank you so much for attending our mentor resource webinar. And we look forward to giving you more content like this during the year, and also to help you as you move forward in your mentorship of your Bruin. So thank you for your time today, and go Bruins.